I want to tell you about how joining a mastermind has changed my whole career, actually. And if it wasn't for mastermind groups, I wouldn't be speaking to you now on this podcast either. Hey hatchlings, welcome to the Motion Hatch podcast. I'm your host, Hayley Akins. Hey hatchlings, so today I want to tell you about the number one biggest thing that changed my business and career. So you guessed it, it's masterminds. Now maybe a lot of you don't know what a mastermind is, so don't worry, I'm going to explain that. You might have heard that we have a program at Motion Hatch called the MoGraph Mastermind program. Now it's been running for over a year and it's probably one of my favorite things to do. And I didn't come up with this concept of masterminding on my own. I want to tell you about how joining a mastermind has changed my whole career, actually. And if it wasn't for mastermind groups, I wouldn't be speaking to you now on this podcast either. I also want to give you 7 tips to creating your own mastermind or being involved in one, so that if you can't join our mastermind or you want to join another one, you have all the tools that you need to make it the most successful it can be. We do obviously have our applications open now for our mastermind program this week. So if you're listening when this comes out, go to motionhatch.com/mastermind to apply. Even if you don't join our mastermind, I think that this episode will give you tons of value and you'll be able to find tips about accountability and surrounding yourself with people who can help you be the most successful motion designer you can be. So the first question is, what is a mastermind? A mastermind is a peer support group that learn and grow together. We usually meet once a week, but I've been in masterminds that also meet monthly and quarterly too. Normally you have a facilitator. So in our case, we have experienced mentors that can give you advice and feedback as well. You always need some sort of leader or host. Otherwise, usually masterminds don't tend to last that long because there's no one kind of leading the way, telling you when to meet, telling you when it's your go in the hot seat and all of that kind of good stuff. You always need to have some sort of leader. One of the reasons why I preferred paid masterminds actually is because you have a facilitator or coach who usually is responsible to help participants get the most out of the program. And also when money is on the line, people normally show up and do the work as well. Masterminds are actually based on a hot seat format. And I know hot seats sound kind of scary, but actually it's just about identifying who you're focusing on that week. And hot seats are usually an allocated time for someone to speak about their business or career struggles or get feedback and brainstorm their problems with the group and things like that. So it's not as scary as it sounds. And so now you know what a mastermind is. Before we get into the 7 tips to create your own successful mastermind, I want to tell you how masterminds have helped me in the past, how they helped me to create a successful motion design business. So I think most of you will have heard about how I got into motion design. Before I started Motion Hatch, I was a freelance motion designer for around 4 years. And before that, I was full-time at various agencies for 7 years. So the first time I came across this idea of a mastermind was when I joined this online community called Location Indie. I'd been interested in traveling more and found 2 podcasts about travel. It turned out these guys who had 2 podcasts also had another podcast called Location Indie, and it was more focused on being a digital nomad and building an online business. So I took the opportunity to join their paid membership, and they put us in mastermind groups together. And very quickly, I realized that this was the most important aspect of joining that community. Well, at least to me, this was my favorite bit. And I think that when you're building a new business or career, or you're in a big transition stage, such as making the jump to freelance or trying to build a new studio, I believe that having a support network like this is really vital to your success, or at least that's definitely been the case for me. So through my mastermind, I met my podcast editor who encouraged me to start this podcast actually. And as you know, the podcast started the whole idea for Motion Hatch and everything that has come out of this. So, I really appreciate that. And I think it's a fantastic way to meet people and network as well. And also knowing the value of masterminds, I've continued to seek out my own masterminds that I've joined. So I recently joined a mastermind that actually cost a lot of money. And I was pretty nervous just before Christmas about putting this money down for this particular mastermind because I have seen how they've literally changed my life. So I actually went for it and I was like, I'm going to do it. And it's been really, really awesome. And my new mastermind has been the thing that's allowed me to hire an operations manager this year for Motion Hatch. And it's also given me some new ideas and pushed me to do more things, like doing this new client course that's currently in beta called Client Quest. So watch out for more info about that course coming soon. So now that you know why I'm so passionate about masterminds and how it has really been pivotal for me in my motion design business, I want to give you 7 tips to creating your own mastermind group, so that if you can't join our mastermind, or you want to do it with a group of friends, then you can do that as well. The first tip for creating a great mastermind is have a specific time and place that you meet. You need to be consistent and all the members need to be committed. So this is why I often recommend joining a paid mastermind, because as I said earlier, when you put money down on the table, you're more motivated to do the work, to turn up. And it's very easy if you're in a group and someone's like, hey, I'll just miss this week, I'll just miss that week. And when you're in the group and no one turns up for your hot seat, it's really, really disheartening. So I highly recommend having the same place and time that you meet every week, and make sure that everybody knows that they have to turn up to that time and be present. So the second tip for creating your own mastermind is have a host or facilitator or coach to keep the group on track. This is super important because, without a host or facilitator or someone like that, you can easily veer off and, lose time and kind of end up going over people's time for hot seats, not giving other people enough time and all of this kind of stuff. And you really need a leader in the group to make sure you know when you're meeting next and if you need to change the hot seat and all of those kind of things. It's also really good to help you keep time so you're not wasting everybody's time, because we all know time is precious. So if you say you've only got 20 minutes in the hot seat, when you're talking about your business and stuff, you can get carried away and it's hard to know. That's why it's good to have someone else who's a host or a leader to say, hey, now it's time for the next person to go, and that kind of thing. So the next tip is to be vulnerable in your group. So some of the best conversations we've had in our mastermind is when someone's brought up their fears around imposter syndrome, or when they've thought that their work isn't good enough, and we've discussed these things. And then it actually turned out that most people in the group felt like that because, everybody has imposter syndrome and all of this kind of stuff. And it's not just about that. It's in every way just being vulnerable about your work and your business, and just getting feedback from other people and just opening up, because that's going to be the way that you get the most out of it and how other people feel more connected to you as well. So the fourth tip is be open to getting things out of the mastermind that you don't expect. So I hear a lot in our mastermind about people who either have too high expectations of themselves and their work, or have too low expectations. So for example, some people in the group, you need to kind of slow them down and make sure that they appreciate the goals that they are achieving, and kind of giving them small actionable wins so they don't get disheartened when they're trying to achieve big goals in their careers and things like that. And then some people feel like they can't achieve something and, they need encouragement and they need to know that they can do that thing. So for example, one person in the January mastermind wanted to start a YouTube channel and doing tutorials and that kind of stuff. And they felt like quite uncomfortable about it, but with the help of our group, they got clarification on their ideas and they were able to move forward with them. So there's many, many examples of when you get different things out of the mastermind and you kind of come to it with lots of different goals and stuff like that. But actually, sometimes the things you get out of it are very different to what you think you would. Or occasionally we've had people be like, oh, this is the direction I want to go in my career. But then they come into the mastermind, maybe they've done the perfect day exercise, which I've mentioned on this podcast before. And then they've completely changed their mind about what they want to do in their business and career and stuff like that. So it's just about being open to those kind of things and just being able to take on feedback from other people and see what comes out of it. So the fifth tip is to use your hot seat wisely. Now, I think this is probably one of the biggest tips. You want to bring questions and ideas for discussion that will help move your business forward and career. You only have like a limited amount of hot seats usually in these kind of things. So you need to make sure that you're talking about the stuff that's actually really important to your business and not getting distracted by other things that come up on a weekly basis. And how we do it in our mastermind program is we usually at the beginning work out if you're going in the right direction in your career. We work out big goals from that and we try and break them into small actionable steps every week. So you're kind of working on the stuff weekly that is building up to those larger goals that you have and using those hot seats to really propel you forward. Tip number 6 is ask very specific questions. So you need to tell the group what kind of feedback you're actually looking for. For example, are you asking if the group thinks your pricing is fair based on your work? Something like that. You need to tell them, hey, I'm looking for a kick up the bum, or I need like some clarification on this point, or something like that. It's best to be clear, because otherwise you can get, long drawn out conversations that aren't really helpful to you. And maybe you've already explored that kind of idea before. So you need to be really clear with the group and tell them what you're looking for from the mastermind on that particular day. Tip number 7 is use your mastermind to create deep networking connections. So you would develop a deep relationship with your group because you're speaking to them on a weekly basis about your business and your career. Usually there is a larger network that you can also take advantage of. For example, in our MoGraph Mastermind program, we have an alumni Slack channel where you can communicate with all the mastermind participants from the past and also in the current session. So my advice would be to use this and really build those connections and grow your network with those people in the group, and also communicate a lot with your group between sessions to make sure that you're getting the connections and the network out of it that you can do, because it's a really great place to grow a network. These are my 7 tips for creating a successful mastermind group. So to recap, have a specific place or time that you meet. Number 2 is make sure you have a host or facilitator. Number 3 is be vulnerable and open with your group. Number 4 is be open to the unexpected. Number 5 is to use your hot seat wisely. Number 6 is ask specific questions. And number 7 is use your mastermind to create deep connections in your network. I hope these tips help you to create your own mastermind, or that you learned some more stuff about how masterminds can help you in your motion design career. Applications for our mastermind program are open right now. If you head over to motionhatch.com/mastermind, you can apply there. We only have a limited amount of spots, so I do recommend that you apply as soon as you possibly can, and I look forward to seeing you in there. If you want to hear more from some motion designers who are in our MoGraph Mastermind alumni, you can listen to episode 38 with Donna McAvoy, episode 51 with Alison Butler, and episode 53 with Chris Field. If you want to meet our mentors for the mastermind, take a listen to episode 46 with Jess and Christopher. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. If you have any questions or thoughts on this episode, as always, you can contact me at Motion Hatch on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you again for listening. Have a great week. See ya.